Good morning all. I am Yashaswini Jonalgadda. Today we have Sri Professor Nageshwar sir and we are going to have a small discussion regarding the latest budget. Good morning sir.
Good morning Yashaswini.
So what is your overall assessment of the latest budget sir, and do you think it addresses the economic challenges faced right now?
Well, to answer your question, we should know what are the economic challenges. Am I right?
Right.
To begin with, what are the economic challenges? Well, this has been evident even in the latest verdict. The Center for Study of Developing Society, Lokniti, pre-poll and post-poll studies have revealed it. And there is a widespread agreement across the country that the jobs and inflation were the two critical issues that define the underwhelming verdict in favor of the NDA. Well, the BJP has won, but it has won with a lesser margin. So the critical factor for that was people said, thank you for the Ram temple, but where are our jobs? Right. So they are happy with the temple, but they are not happy with the jobs. So that's the reason BJP lost in Ayodhya, BJP lost in Badrinath in the recent assembly elections. So BJP lost in the land of Ram temple in Uttar Pradesh. So the government seems to have learned at least some lesson from this kind of a verdict. So jobs, inflation, third aspect was inequalities. So there is, if you look at the country, we find preposterous levels of inequalities, grotesque levels of inequalities, absolutely unacceptable. I'll only just quote one figure by Dattatreya Hosbole, the RSS spokesperson. Well, nobody can accuse him of being left or being critical of the government. So Dattatreya Hosbole said there are 23 crore Indians who earn just 375 rupees per day and less. Whereas the daily income of Adani is around 1600 crores. Well, Adani figure he did not give it, he gave the other figure. I am adding the Adani figure to it. So, well, this is the level of rampant inequalities that exist in our country. So that's the third challenge. The fourth challenge is the growth is subdued. Even the economic survey talks about only 6.5 to 7% of GDP growth rate. Even that figure is also not realistic because the government has calculated the GDP in a very interesting manner. So the nominal GDP is 10.5%. So they have deducted only the core inflation of 3% to arrive at 7% GDP. But the food inflation is over 9%. So it's erroneous to assume GDP based on the core inflation because it is the food inflation that impacts the large sections of Indian population. But notwithstanding the GDP gimmickry, the point I am trying to make was the 6.5 to 7% GDP growth rate projected in this budget and economic survey is less than the 8% India has achieved last year. The annual average growth rate in the 10 years of Modi regime is around 5.8%, whereas in the UPA decade, the 2004 to 14, which is characterized by series of scandals, as all of us know, and characterized by the policy paralysis, still the annual growth rate was 7.8%. Well, somebody may say there was pandemic in this decade. It's true, it is a pandemic. There was pandemic in this. But there was global financial crisis in 2008 in the previous decade, and oil shock was there. The oil prices were hovering around $140 per barrel around 2012, 2013. Whereas the oil prices were substantially lower than even $100 mark they did not reach in this 10 years. So there are similarities, there are dissimilarities, but the fact remains the growth is certainly not encouraging. Well, we can't compare with other countries, we have to compare with our own country. So why the growth is less? Because the private investment is not forthcoming. Even the budget acknowledges this, economic survey acknowledges this. The economic survey prepared by the chief economic advisor to the government of India, presented to the parliament by the finance minister, Sitharaman, says the corporates are swimming in profit. They use the word swimming. The corporates are swimming in profit, but they are creating productive jobs. So these are the private consumption expenditure is less, private investment is not forthcoming. So the investment ratio was around 31% only. The gross fixed capital formation is still stagnant. So the four problems of jobs, inflation, inequalities, and declining private consumption. These are the four problems which the Indian economy is significantly facing today.
Okay.
Well, did the budget, your question then comes is, did the budget address them?
Right.
Well, it's a very long analysis you have to make, but I will only give you in one or two sentences. So, what is the solution to all these four problems? Well, there can be individual specific solutions to each one of them, but the overall problem, the macroeconomic solution to these problems is certainly expanding the economic activity. How do you expand economic activity at a time when the private investment is not forthcoming? The only way is to increase the public expenditure and public investment, because it is an established economic theory that the public expenditure will be followed by the private investment. But did the public expenditure increase? So the government revenues expanded by 14.5%. So government was getting more money through direct taxes, through GST. GST is breaking all the records. Government was getting more money. They got 14.5% more revenues compared to the previous year. But the overall expenditure of the government rose by only 5.94%, less than what the revenue has increased. But where did this money go? Obviously, you'll have a question. Where did this money go? This money has gone to reduce the fiscal deficit. So the government still suffers from the fiscal conservatism at a time when the economic challenges which I have explained require a fiscal expansionary strategy. Unfortunately, the government seemed to have not learned the proper lesson. So, as a result of lower expenditure, not so higher expenditure, what has actually happened? I'll give you a couple of examples.
Sure.
The allocation for education, health, rural development remained stagnant. They did not increase. Allocation for NREG, National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, that propels the non-farm jobs, has not increased. The allocation for National Social Assistance Program, which includes pensions, etc., did not increase. The food subsidies has come down by 7,000 crores. The fertilizer subsidies have gone down by 25,000 crores. And already the customs duty and the ammonium nitrate has increased. So therefore, the subsidies have come down, the customs duty and ammonium nitrate has increased, certainly the fertilizer prices will rise. So tell me, so when you do not spend more on education, more on health, more on rural development, more on welfare, more on social assistance, more on food security, then where will you spend more? So that is the fundamental flaw in the economic strategy, and we saw through the budget.
So where did the money go?
Well, that's the question. The money has gone to reduce the fiscal deficit.
That's it.
The government is more keen to listen to the World Bank and International Monetary Fund and other international financial institutions and the investors in stock market who do not want higher expenditure. So they are telling the government, reduce the expenditure, reduce the fiscal deficit. So, well, somebody may say, so why should you have spent more than you earn? So what is fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is essentially the gap between your income and spending. Am I right?
Right.
So the question comes is, why should the government spend more than its revenue? Well, any developing economy, any developing family will certainly do that. Suppose assuming that a parents have a monthly income of 20,000 and his or her their children got a seat in IIT and IIM. So their 20,000 salary will not make them afford such an education.
Right.
So what should they do? There are two ways. First option is not to send them to IIT and IIM. Tell them, beta, beti, I can't spend, you go and join BCom. The second option is, don't worry, beta, beti, we will take loans, we'll borrow, and we'll send you to IIT and IIM, and we will, who is the right kind of parent, you tell me? Obviously the second one. Obviously. Right. So we want the government to be the same. So government should also be like a responsible parent. So deficit financing is not a wrong concept. Unfortunately, the fiscal conservatives argue that deficit financing is bad for economy. But in any developing economy, whether it is a country, family, anything, it is always important that nothing wrong to borrow. But where will that borrowing go? The borrowing should go to expand the productive capacity, income generating capacity.
Right.
If it has to ensure the welfare of the family and society. So therefore, this government is still not ready to have a strategy of fiscal expansion wherein higher public investment will help. Well, certainly it has spent more on infrastructure. We'll come back to that later.
Sure.
But they are spending more on infrastructure. I appreciate that. But not on the overall fiscal expansion that will trigger and spur economic growth.
Okay, so with the prior question where we had certain kind of assessment, so do you think that this budget addresses the main social welfare concerns like healthcare, education and poverty alleviation?
Certainly not. That's what I'm telling. When you have a reduced allocation on food security,
Right.
when you have stagnant allocation for education and health, the allocation for education, health, rural development, National Rural Guarantee Program, so the National Social Assistance Program were almost similar to that of the revised estimates of for the previous year. So whereas the money has not been increased at all. I'll give you another example. For example, for the NREGA, 86,000 crores are allocated, in which in the first 4 months, we are into fourth month now in this financial year, which begins on April 1st. So already 41,500 crores have been spent because the interim budget has also allocated.
Right.
So how much is left? Another 44,500 crores. But there are still 8 months. So when you have spent 41,500 crore for 4 months, when you allocate 44,500 crore for next 8 months, is this better spending on the welfare?
No.
This is a simple calculation which I am giving.
Right, of course not. So, sir, do you think that there are any initiatives included for job creation in the latest budget?
Certainly. In fact, for the first time, I have been following the budget for last 30 years and especially the 10 years of Modi regime.
Okay.
I think this is the first budget to speak about employment, jobs in such a lengthy manner. The part A of the Finance Minister budget speech is entirely focused on jobs and employment. Well, if you look at, I think I was reading somewhere that the jobs and employment word figured at least 23 times in this budget, something unprecedented in the past. So they have listened to the voters' mandate. What did the voters say? Thank you for Ram Temple, but we need jobs.
Right.
They said, thank you, you have built Ram Temple, we are happy with that.
Right.
But we are not happy, even God is not happy. God also said, well, Lord Ram also said, you have built me a temple, you have moved me from tent to temple, as Prime Minister Modi said, but my children are not getting good jobs.
Right.
So Bhagwan will also be happy when he is not given good house. He'll be happy if his own creation lives in a happy life.
True.
That is what the divinity essentially means. If you are so selfish about your own wonderful temple, he is not a god. No god will be like that. So the divine entity essentially means they look for. That's what Manava Seva, Madhava Seva. That's what our epics tell. That's what our Dharma Shastra tell. Right. So the fundamental thing is, well, they have listened to the voter, so they have responded. So there are certain good schemes. The first scheme is to have an apprenticeship. Let me tell you an interesting thing. The budget contains many facets of Congress manifesto. Okay. So it was a Congress which in its manifesto promised right to apprenticeship scheme. They promised that around 1 lakh companies, youth will be provided mandatory apprenticeship. Any company with over 10 crore turnover. So, but a watered down version is included in this budget. It says 1 crore youth will be provided internship in 500 top companies and around 5,000 rupees will be paid for the interning per year, per month, for a period of 1 year, with another 6,000 rupees initially.
Okay.
So all that is good. It's a wonderful scheme. I appreciate it. Internship is, I'm sure you will also agree, you have a background in technology.
Right.
So internship is highly appreciable. But I only doubt the figures. They said 1 crore in 5 years, which means 20 lakh per year. Am I right?
Right.
So 500 companies, which means 4,000 people should be given internship in each company in a year,
Right.
per year. Will any company, however big it may be, in a company like Infosys, company like Wipro, will it accept 4,000 interns? I really doubt.
True.
So 4,000, providing internship to 4,000 interns in even a big company may not be possible
Right.
in a year. So the figures certainly seem to be not matching the actual reality. Then there is a second question. Why only 500 top companies? The problem with the 500 top companies is, well, if somebody has to be trained, get an internship, even to be benefited by that internship in a top company, he or she needs some level of abilities. Suppose you want to get trained in Hotel Marriott, you have to speak in English at least.
Right.
So, but if you want to get a training in chutneys, then that doesn't require so much of skill set. So when you give training in only 500 top companies, I am sure the ordinary, mundane, routine, ability holding people will not benefit. So relatively it benefits the cream of the people who require internship. It doesn't require benefit the mass of the people who require training. What is required today, the cream will anyhow get the job. They know how to get their own internship.
Right.
So in top companies, all of us know children coming out of top engineering colleges, top institutions, do get internship without even government support also.
Right.
The problem is only for the middle and the lower level people. The problem is never at the higher level people. So that is the practical problem. So instead of focusing on the middle and lower level skilled people, to offer them some level of training, so they are focused on the upper layer. That is another problem, but still it's a wonderful scheme. There is another scheme which incentivizes additional employment. Suppose if you give a job of less than 1 lakh, the government will provide 15,000 per employee, not more than 15,000, depending on the salary given, in 3 installments of 5,000 each. So the person who is getting employment will get 15,000 from the government, and the person who is providing employment, employer, will get 72,000. So he gets a monthly 3,000 for 24 months. My question is, you still want to incentivize the employer, not the employee. So
Right.
that bias still remains. On one side, economic survey says, we have given you tax concessions. In September 2019, the corporate income tax has been slashed by 10%. As a result, the government has foregone a revenue of 1,86,000 crores. This is whose money? So, what did investment go up? No. Did private sector invest more? No. This is what economic survey said. It's not my problem. So, why did they not? People will invest not when they are provided incentive. People will invest when there is somebody to buy their goods and services.
Right.
So that is the fundamental problem. The supply side economic obsession still makes the government to incentivize the employer. What you require is a demand side intervention, where when you have people to buy goods and services, the production will always be there. The beg, borrow and steal people will produce.
Right.
So the problem is not supply, the problem is demand. So there is, today what is happening, there is only consumption at the upper layer. For example, the high-end apartments and villas are finding traction, sale, whereas the middle level and affordable housing sales have come down. High-end car sales have increased. The budget cars and two-wheeler sales have come down. So there is a luxury consumption by the top 10-15% of the country, which is called the K-shaped consumption, with resulting in this growth. But what India requires is the 80-90% of Indian population should be able to consume the basic goods and services.
Right.
So that requires money in the hands of the people, not in the hands of the corporates. So that's the reason economic survey said they're swimming in profits. So when the government itself acknowledges in economic survey that corporates are swimming in profits, what prevents government from taxing a bit of those surplus profits, those windfall profits? I really don't understand. So that is the problem again of a wrong economic strategy of supply side intervention rather than demand side management.
Understand. So then we'll move to certain states, sir. We see that AP, Andhra Pradesh and Bihar are being favored. So what do you think about it? Is it more the need of the hour or just because they are in coalition government?
Not the need of the hour, but need of the government. So that's the reason opposition calling it a quid pro quo budget. But here there are a lot of announcements. But let's look at only Andhra Pradesh, for example.
Okay.
What did they say? They said 15,000 crores to Amaravati.
Right.
Did the finance minister say that it is given from the budget? No.
No.
Did the finance minister say it as a grant? No. What did the finance minister say? The finance minister said the government of India will facilitate through multilateral development agencies and arrange for the money. There are two keywords, facilitate and arrange. Suppose if Yashaswini comes to me and says, sir, I need 1 lakh rupees. If I send that money from my account, that is giving you.
Right.
If I say I will facilitate, what does it mean? I'll help you in getting a bank loan.
Right.
I'll help you getting some creditor to give you credit. I'm not giving you money. So this is what the finance minister said. So we are not still clear whether it is a grant or a loan. If it is a loan, who will pay for that loan? Will the government of India pay the interest and principal on the loan? Then we should be happy. But
Right.
if the loan has to be repaid by the government of Andhra Pradesh, that is the people of Andhra Pradesh, what did the finance minister actually give? Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, that too, when you have a fiscal responsibility in budget management, is this 15,000 crore, first of all, is it a loan? If it is a loan, is it over and above FRBM limits? Nobody knows. So the devil lies in the details. We have to wait and see what exactly is the 15,000 crores. Then they said, we'll complete Polavaram. Well, that is supposed to, they are bound to do that. It is part of the Bifurcation Act.
Right.
Finance Minister has only reiterated what is there in the Bifurcation Act without giving explanation what prevented Modi government to implement it for the last 10 years.
Right.
When the same government is there for the last 10 years, if a new government comes, I can understand. Same government has not implemented for the last 10 years. And now you come and say, I'll implement it. We are committed to the act. Well, it is Polavaram is a national project promised in the act. Then
Right.
why did you not prevent Jagannath Reddy from delaying the project as claimed by Chandrababu Naidu? So Chandrababu Naidu has completed 72% of Polavaram. Why in the last 5 years the remaining 28% has not been done? So is government of India not culpable because it's a national project? Now you tell that we'll complete it, and even that, nobody knows they will pay for the displaced. The issue today is the displaced people. Thousands of crores are required to provide rehabilitation.
Right.
And will they pay? Nobody knows. And they said industrial corridors, Vizag, Chennai, Hyderabad, Bengaluru. Well, that's part of the act only. Is Andhra Pradesh really getting anything over and above the act? Nothing. So the backward regions will be provided assistance. What did this promise in the act get in the past? They have given 50 crores per each district for 7 districts. Now they added Prakasham also, 8 districts. What kind of infrastructure will come in with 50 crores? Well, for the Bihar at least they have announced some pilgrim tourism projects like Vishnupath corridor, Mahabodhi corridor, Rajgir. But did Andhra Pradesh not get anything? Why can't you have a Tirupati corridor? Why can't government of India spend 5,000 crores for development of the pilgrim shrine of Tirupati? Well, Lord Venkateshwara has no regional local candidate certificate, am I right?
Right.
It's not a mulki, non-mulki doesn't apply to
Absolutely.
Bhagwan, God. So when you have Vishnupat in Bihar, why not Venkatpat, Lord Venkateshwara Pat in Tirupati? What is preventing this? Why not for Bhadrachalam? When you have for Ayodhya Rama, why not for Bhadrachalam? Well, Telangana did not figure it out. Well, I don't know, there may be some allocation, but I am not denying that. But Finance Minister did not even speak about Telangana in the entire speech.
Right.
Well, in Andhra Pradesh also, it is a reiteration of the Bifurcation Act. So did the government of India give anything for the Vijayawada and Vishaka metro? Nothing. No pilgrim tourism. Finance Minister talks about pristine beaches of Orissa and want to develop it as a tourism spot. Why not Andhra Pradesh beaches? Andhra Pradesh has 974 kilometers of long coastline. Why not the government of India develop the coastal tourism in Andhra Pradesh? Why not cruise tourism? This budget talks about cruise tourism. Can't you not have a cruise tourism? Well, the government has, Finance Minister has given money for flood control in Assam, Sikkim, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Koshi River in Bihar. Why not for the Godavari River? When we are talking about the budget now, Godavari has alarming levels of flood at Bhadrachalam and Tom. Why not for the Godavari? Why for only Koshi? Only for the Ganges? So that is the question. Why can't Andhra Pradesh get some money for the flood control? So when Gujarat Gift City got so much of concession for the government of India, why not the FinTech Valley in Visakhapatnam, which Chandrababu Naidu dreams? So when you have a bullet train from Ahmedabad to Bombay, why not from Hyderabad to Vizag? Why can't you have that? Why can't you develop that as a corridor? When Vedanta project has been compelled to relocate from Maharashtra to Gujarat, 1.5 lakh crore project, 33,000 crores were given by Government of India's concessions. Well, Nara Lokesh says we want to develop Andhra Pradesh into an electronics hub, semiconductor hub, fab city. Why should Andhra Pradesh not get that? Why only Gujarat should get it? So the question is, there a lot of talk about Andhra Pradesh and Bihar. In the Finance Minister has given an opportunity for TDP and JDU to save their face. But what actually will be grounded is a $1 million question.
So, do you think that the government allocated funds across the prominent sectors, the major sectors?
Well, so I have already explained to that major sectors, education, health, rural development,
right,
did not see any increase in the funds. Well, I'm sure when you have a budget that runs into lakhs of crore,
right,
every sector will get some money or not. So, obviously every sector will get money when government spends so much money. But the question is, how much did these sectors get? Well, the only one sector which got reasonably better funding is infrastructure. So, infrastructure around 11 lakh crores are given for infrastructure, which is certainly very good because it has been increasing. I think the 23-24 they have spent around over 9 lakhs crore. It was less in the previous year. So every year the infrastructure spending is increasing. Around 25% of the budget is spent on infrastructure. Infrastructure includes roads, railways, airports, ports, pipelines, etc., etc. Well, again, when you have money for infrastructure, do you have the capacity to utilize it? This is what the Nitin Gadkari also says.
Right.
But certainly infrastructure is required and we appreciate that allocation.
So this already answers my next question where I wanted to ask about infrastructure development plans. So we'll move on to the next, sir. What kind of impact does this have on businesses and individuals with the new tax policies? What kind of impact we can see?
Well, the salaried middle class are the most honest taxpayers by default. Right. By default, because you have no other option. Whereas a business enterprise can claim all kinds of expenditure, right?
Right.
If I am running a business, you know very well. Well, not that all businesses do that. I am not telling that. I am not accusing every business of doing that. There are businesses, there are companies which honestly do. But still, there is a scope for the businesses to book many things in expenditure. Suppose if my family outing, if I go on vacation to Japan, I can always book it and show it as a part of the expenditure.
Right.
Well, I have gone to Japan to explore business opportunities.
Right.
Well, you can, so that's an advantage businesses have, not the individuals. So therefore, the salaried individuals are the most honest taxpayers by default. What they are expecting a substantial concession, substantial relief. They are expecting, they are waiting for the last 10 years. Even this budget disappoints them. The old tax regime in personal income tax, nothing has changed. Only the new tax regime, the finance minister says 2/3 have moved to new tax regime. So the new tax regime means without exemptions, as you know. So there the standard deduction is increased by 25,000 rupees. Poultry 25,000. From 50,000 to 75,000. Well, along with that, some slabs have been readjusted.
Right.
And the finance minister herself says that the individuals will get around a relief of 17,500 per year, which accounts for 1,500 per month. But still, I appreciate that. Welcome it. Too little, too late. It is certainly too little and too late. From the businesses, well, as I told you, for an additional employment created, they are getting relief. So MSME sector, some credit advances will be given. Well, there are certain, nothing to give a big tax incentive because already it has been given. Corporates are taxed less than the individuals today. Individuals are taxed at a higher level than the corporate. As a result, for the first time in India, in the recent economic history, the collection from the personal income tax are today higher than the corporate income tax. So that's the reason economic survey said corporates are swimming in profit. They use the word swimming. So you can understand what kind of windfall profits, not for every company,
Right.
but certainly for the big, select big companies. So businesses, well, in this budget also there are many things related to ease of doing business. So incentives are given for additional employment. Credit expansion is promised to the MSME sector. The supplier net is to be widened for the MSME sector.
Right. So all these proposed tax reforms, are they sufficient for the government to generate revenue for the strategies they have planned for?
Well, it depends on several factors. It depends on how much of tax leakages will be done and how much will be the economic growth, because government income is incumbent upon higher economic growth. If there is an higher economic growth, but there will be more impact, more income. But the problem is the fiscal conservatism, the ideology of fiscal conservatism deliberately restrains the governments. So if I'm giving a simple example, Yashashwini,
Okay.
an egg a day keeps the doctor away, like an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? Or if every Indian has the capacity to buy an apple a day,
No.
how much will be the demand for apples? You can grow apples not only in Kashmir but also in Karimnagar, if climate permits.
Right.
So if every Indian has the capacity to eat an egg a day, how much will be the demand for eggs and poultry products? Unbelievable. So the problem of India is not the poverty, it is the poverty of mind. The problem of India is the poverty of public policy. It is the poverty of the economic thinking. If crores of Indians are given purchasing power, the Indian economy will be doubled, tripled also. So unfortunately, Indian economy is largely relying on consumption of 10 to 15% Indians. All the heavy rush which we see in supermarkets, in mega malls, so all this is only the 10 to 15% of Indian spending. If there are 20% of Indian spending, if you give the ability to spend to the remaining 80%, Indian economy will increase not by leaps and bounds, by you should think of another idiom. But towards that end, this budget doesn't really attempt, because the public policy suffers from incrementalism, not from a radical out-of-box thinking to reorganize and reshape the economic trajectory.
Okay. So One last question I have. What do you think about the budget allocation to Telangana? Maybe it's a larger picture, but what do you think about our CM Revant Reddy's view about Kursi Bachao budget, but it's not Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas budget?
Well, Revant Reddy, the Congress Chief Minister, obviously he will have to question the budget. Whether it's good or bad, he will question. So, by looking at the repeated talk of Bihar and Andhra Pradesh, the Kursi Bachao, the quid pro quo budget, all these allegations are coming. Well, certainly Bihar and Andhra Pradesh got little more than what others got. But still it is not as it is projected.
Right.
There is a flood of funds. The pro-government media is projecting as a flood of funds. What is flood of funds? Did the government say we'll spend 50,000 rupees, 50,000 crore for constructing Amaravati?
Of course not.
Not. So, even this money, and the problem with is, well, Telangana did not figure in the finance minister's speech. That doesn't mean Telangana did not get anything. Because the details will be in the documents, budget documents. We have to actually swim through the documents to use the economics reference. But the problem with this budget is the allocation for the states are coming down. The central government claimed that they have increased the allocations, devolution fund from 32 to 42%. It is true, but the reality is the government, central government has been increasing non-shareable cesses and duties rather than shareable taxes. As a result of this move, the share of the states is actually around 30%, not 42%, as envisaged and as projected.
Okay.
For example, in 2022-23, the Finance Commission grants, apart from the devolution funds, has come down. It was around 1,72,760 crores in 22-23. That has come down to 1,42,000 crores in 23-24. It has further come down to 1,32,000 crores in this budget. So the overall allocation for states are coming down. So that should be of much concern, and especially the southern states, because the Finance Commission is now using 2011 census to arrive at the formula for funding. So this will benefit the Hindi states and North Indian states. The Bimaru states will benefit. South Indian states are losing. So Telangana, and not only Telangana, even Andhra Pradesh should worry for the truncated fiscal federalism, resulting in lower transfer from center to states.
Okay. So thanks for your insight, sir. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Shashri.